First contact gone wrong, 2,000 words. The vastness of space had always fascinated Dr. Zahn. As chief xenobiologist aboard the Arcturian research vessel Stellar Seeker, he devoted his life to studying the myriad forms of life scattered across the galaxy. But nothing could have prepared him for the discovery that awaited on the unremarkable blue planet in the backwater of the Orion Arm. Captain Lyra, we're picking up unusual electromagnetic emissions from the third planet, reported the sensor operator, his antenna twitching with excitement. Captain Lyra, a towering figure with iridescent scales, leaned forward in her command chair. Interesting. Zahn, your analysis. Dr. Zahn's compound eyes flickered as he processed the data. Artificial in origin, Captain, consistent with a pre-FTL civilization. Recommendation: observe from a distance. Direct contact is prohibited by galactic law. Captain Lyra's mandibles clicked in frustration. The Stellar Seeker had been traversing this sector for months without a significant discovery. Her superiors at the Arcturian Science Academy were growing impatient. A pre-FTL species might not be groundbreaking, but it was better than returning empty-handed. Zahn, prepare a stealth shuttle. We're going to take a closer look. But, Captain, the regulations clearly state. I'm well aware of the regulations, Doctor. We'll observe only, no contact. As the shuttle descended through the planet's atmosphere under the cover of night, Dr. Zahn couldn't shake a sense of unease. The planet's surface was a patchwork of lights, indicating a global civilization. Primitive compared to Arcturian standards, but undeniably sapient. Fascinating, Zahn murmured, his scientific curiosity overriding his reservations. Their development is remarkably rapid for a species their age. The shuttle's cloaking field shimmered as they glided over a sprawling urban center. Suddenly, alarms blared through the cabin. What's happening? Captain Lyra demanded. The pilot's appendages danced over the controls. Unknown, Captain. Some kind of energy surge. It's interfering with our systems. The shuttle lurched, its anti-gravity generators sputtering. They were losing altitude fast. Emergency landing protocols. Lyra ordered. Find us somewhere isolated. As the stricken craft descended, Zahn spotted a solitary figure on an isolated stretch of beach below. A member of the dominant species, no doubt. Before he could alert the captain, a blinding flash engulfed them. When Zahn's vision cleared, he found himself sprawled on cool sand. The shuttle lay in pieces around them, its cloaking field offline, and there, staring at them with wide eyes, was the native. Captain, Zahn said, his voice trembling. We have a serious problem. The human, a female, Zahn surmised, seemed frozen in shock. She was small by Arcturian standards, with pale skin and dark hair. Some kind of fabric covered most of her body, and she clutched a device in one hand. Captain Lyra rose to her full height, towering over the human. Zahn, restrain it. We can't let news of our presence spread. Captain, please, Zahn protested. We've already violated numerous protocols. Abduction would be an unfortunate necessity. Lyra cut him off. We'll take it aboard for study, then wipe its memory before returning it. The Academy will understand given the circumstances. As Zahn reluctantly approached the human, her initial shock seemed to wear off. To his surprise, instead of fleeing, she held up the device in her hand. It emitted a series of rapid flashes. Curious, Zahn muttered. Some kind of defensive mechanism. The human began speaking rapidly in an unfamiliar language. Her tone didn't seem aggressive, but rather excited. Zahn's universal translator struggled to decipher the alien tongue. I apologize, Zahn said, knowing she couldn't understand him. This is for your own safety. He reached out to apply a sedative patch. The human's reaction caught him off guard. Instead of resisting, she extended her arm, as if offering it to him. Her mouth curved upward in what Zahn recognized as a species-specific expression of positive emotion. Captain, Zahn called out. I don't think. But it was too late. Lyra had already activated the shuttle's emergency beacon. Within moments, a containment field surrounded the human, and she was teleported aboard the Stellar Seeker along with a stranded crew. Aboard the ship, chaos reigned. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to contain the unprecedented breach of protocol. In the med bay, Zahn found himself face to face with that unexpected guest. The human sat calmly on an examination table, her eyes darting around the room with unbridled curiosity. The translator had finally managed to decipher her language. "This is amazing," she was saying. "I knew it. I knew we weren't alone. Oh, I have so many questions." Zahn blinked in surprise. "You're not afraid." The human laughed. "Are you kidding? This is the greatest day of my life. I'm Sarah, by the way, Sarah Chen. And you are?" Dr. Zahn, xenobiologist of the Arcturian Science Academy. He found himself answering automatically, caught off guard by her enthusiasm. "Xenobiologist. Oh wow, we have those too. Well, technically they're astrobiologists since we haven't made contact yet. Until now, I guess. This is incredible." Zahn's scientific mind was reeling. The human Sarah displayed a level of cognitive function far beyond what he'd expected from a pre-FTL species. Her grasp of abstract concepts and immediate acceptance of alien life spoke of a remarkably adaptable intelligence. "Sarah," he said carefully, "I need you to understand the gravity of this situation. Your abduction was unintentional, and our presence here violates numerous galactic laws." Sarah's expression grew serious. "I understand, but surely this is an opportunity. First contact between our species is strictly forbidden," Captain Lyra interrupted, striding into the med bay. "This incident will be classified, the human's memory will be wiped, and we will return to Arcturia immediately." Sarah's eyes widened. "Wait, you can't just..." But Lyra had already turned to Zahn. "Prepare her for memory alteration. I need to inform the Academy of our situation." As Lyra left, Zahn saw fear creep into Sarah's eyes for the first time. "Please," he said, "you can't erase this. It's too important." Zahn felt torn. Every instinct told him to follow orders, to protect the sanctity of galactic law. But as he looked at Sarah, he saw not just a test subject, but a sentient being on the cusp of a profound discovery. To rob her of that seemed cruel in a way that transcended species boundaries. I need time to run some tests," Zahn found himself saying, "to ensure the procedure will be safe for her physiology." Sarah gave him a grateful look, clearly understanding his intent. As Zahn began a series of unnecessary scans, his mind raced. He had sworn to uphold the principles of galactic law, to protect the natural development of young species. But he was also a scientist, dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. The human before him represented an unprecedented opportunity to study a species on the brink of cosmic awareness. More than that, Sarah's obvious intelligence and curiosity stirred something in Zahn, a reminder of why he had become a xenobiologist in the first place, to explore the wonders of the universe and the myriad forms of life it contained. "Sarah," he said quietly, ensuring the room's sensors wouldn't pick up his words, "I can't stop what's going to happen, but I want you to know that you've made an impression on me. Your species has potential that I never expected to find." Sarah nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Then give us a chance to prove it. Please." Before Zahn could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Red alert klaxons blared throughout the vessel. Captain Lyra's voice came over the intercom. "All hands, battle stations. We are under attack by Kuulian raiders." Zahn's heart sank. The Kuulians were a notoriously aggressive species, their ships little more than heavily armed scruffeeps, held together by spite and desperation. A science vessel like the Stellar Seeker was ill-equipped to handle such a threat. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, fear and excitement warring in her voice. Zahn made a split-second decision that would change the course of galactic history. "We're in danger," he said, deactivating the restraints on Sarah's bed. "And I have a feeling we're going to need all the help we can get." As alarms blared and the ship rocked with weapons fire, Zahn led Sarah out of the med bay. He didn't know what the human could possibly do to help, but his scientific instincts told him that underestimating her would be a grave mistake. Little did he know that Sarah Chen, the unremarkable human abducted by chance, was about to prove just how remarkable humanity could be. The human sat calmly on an examination table, her eyes darting around the room with unbridled curiosity. The translator had finally managed to decipher her language. "This is amazing," she was saying. "I knew it. I knew we weren't alone. Oh, I have so many questions." Zahn blinked in surprise. "You're not afraid." The human laughed. "Are you kidding? This is the greatest day of my life. I'm Sarah, by the way. Sarah Chen. And you are?" Dr. Zahn, xenobiologist of the Arcturian Science Academy. He found himself answering automatically, caught off guard by her enthusiasm. "Xenobiologist? Oh wow, we have those too. Well, technically they're astrobiologists since we haven't made contact yet. Until now, I guess. This is incredible." Zahn's scientific mind was reeling. The human, Sarah, displayed a level of cognitive function far beyond what he'd expected from a pre-FTL species. Her grasp of abstract concepts and immediate acceptance of alien life spoke of a remarkably adaptable intelligence. "Sarah," he said carefully, "I need you to understand the gravity of this situation. Your abduction was unintentional, and our presence here violates numerous galactic laws." Sarah's expression grew serious. "I understand, but surely this is an opportunity. First contact between our species is strictly forbidden," Captain Lyra interrupted, striding into the med bay. "This incident will be classified. The human's memory will be wiped, and we will return to Arcturia immediately." Sarah's eyes widened. "Wait, you can't just..." But Lyra had already turned to Zahn. "Prepare her for memory alteration. I need to inform the Academy of our situation." As Lyra left, Zahn saw fear creep into Sarah's eyes for the first time. "Please," he said, "you can't erase this. It's too important." Zahn felt torn. Every instinct told him to follow orders, to protect the sanctity of galactic law. But as he looked at Sarah, he saw not just a test subject, but a sentient being on the cusp of a profound discovery. To rob her of that seemed cruel in a way that transcended species boundaries. I need time to run some tests," Zahn found himself saying, "to ensure the procedure will be safe for her physiology." Sarah gave him a grateful look, clearly understanding his intent. As Zahn began a series of unnecessary scans, his mind raced. He had sworn to uphold the principles of galactic law, to protect the natural development of young species. But he was also a scientist, dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. The human before him represented an unprecedented opportunity to study a species on the brink of cosmic awareness. More than that, Sarah's obvious intelligence and curiosity stirred something in Zahn, a reminder of why he had become a xenobiologist in the first place, to explore the wonders of the universe and the myriad forms of life it contained. "Sarah," he said quietly, ensuring the room's sensors wouldn't pick up his words, "I can't stop what's going to happen, but I want you to know that you've made an impression on me. Your species has potential that I never expected to find." Sarah nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Then give us a chance to prove it, please." Before Zahn could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Red alert klaxons blared throughout the vessel. Captain Lyra's voice came over the intercom. "All hands, battle stations. We are under attack by Kuulian raiders." Zahn's heart sank. The Kuulians were a notoriously aggressive species, their ships little more than heavily armed scrapheaps held together by spite and desperation. A science vessel like the Stellar Seeker was ill-equipped to handle such a threat. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, fear and excitement warring in her voice. Zahn made a split-second decision that would change the course of galactic history. "We're in danger," he said, deactivating the restraints on Sarah's bed. "And I have a feeling we're going to need all the help we can get." As alarms blared and the ship rocked with weapons fire, Zahn led Sarah out of the med bay. He didn't know what the human could possibly do to help, but his scientific instincts told him that underestimating her would be a grave mistake. Little did he know that Sarah Chen, the unremarkable human abducted by chance, was about to prove just how remarkable humanity could be. The human factor, 2,000 words. The corridors of the Stellar Seeker were a chaotic blur of flashing lights and panicked crew members as Dr. Zahn led Sarah through the ship. The vessel shuddered under another barrage from the Kuulian raiders, nearly throwing them off their feet. "We need to get to the bridge," Zahn said, his compound eyes darting nervously. "Captain Lyra needs to know you're loose, and I need to face the consequences of my actions." Sarah's mind was reeling, but she forced herself to focus. "No offense, but your captain doesn't seem like the type to welcome my help. What can I do?" Zahn's mandibles clicked in what Sarah was beginning to recognize as a sign of anxiety. "I don't know, but the alternative was leaving you helpless in the med bay. I couldn't." He was cut off as a section of the ceiling collapsed in front of them, blocking their path. Acrid smoke filled the air. "Blast," Zahn muttered. "We'll have to go through the engineering sector." As they were routed, Sarah's scientific curiosity began to override her fear. The ship's technology was beyond anything she'd imagined, yet there was a certain logic to its design that her engineer's mind could grasp. They entered a vast chamber filled with pulsing, crystalline structures. In the center stood a pillar of swirling energy, the ship's power core, Sarah guessed. Arcturian crew members scrambled around the room, their movements frantic. "The containment field is failing," one of them shouted. "We're losing antimatter containment." Sarah's eyes widened. "You use antimatter for propulsion." Zahn nodded absently, his attention on the chaos around them. "Yes, but the Kuulian weapons fire must have damaged the magnetic bottling system. If it fails completely, the ship will be destroyed," Sarah finished. She bit her lip, mind racing. "I might be able to help." Zahn turned to her in surprise. "You understand our technology?" "Not entirely," Sarah admitted, "but I've studied theoretical models of antimatter containment. The principles should be similar, even if the execution is more advanced." Before Zahn could respond, Captain Lyra's voice boomed over the intercom. "All hands, prepare for emergency warp jump." The chief engineer, a spindly Arcturian with 6 limbs, called out in panic. "Belay that order. The containment field won't hold under warp stress." Sarah stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. "What if you rerouted power from non-essential systems to reinforce the field?" The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the strange alien in their midst. The chief engineer blinked in confusion. "That might work, but how did you?" "No time," Sarah interrupted. "I'll explain later. Right now, we need to stabilize that containment field before we all become a very energetic cloud of particles." To her surprise, the Arcturians sprang into action, following her suggestions without question. Sarah found herself working alongside alien engineers, her hands flying over unfamiliar controls as if she'd trained on them for years. There was an intuitive logic to the system that resonated with her understanding of physics. As klaxons blared and the ship rocked with weapons fire, Sarah lost herself in the flow of problem-solving. She directed power reroutes, suggested modifications to the field harmonics, and at one point even crawled into a maintenance duct to manually adjust a critical component. Finally, after what felt like hours but was likely only minutes, the containment field stabilized. A cheer went up from the engineering crew. The chief engineer approached Sarah, his eye stalks swiveling in what she hoped was an expression of respect. "Remarkable work, Sarah," she supplied. "Sarah Chen. Remarkable work, Sarah Chen. You've saved us all." Before she could respond, the doors to engineering slid open. Captain Lyra strode in, her towering form radiating authority and barely contained fury. "What," she hissed, "is the meaning of this?" Dr. Zahn stepped forward, placing himself between Sarah and the captain. "Captain, I can explain. You violated direct orders, endangered this ship and its crew, and allowed an alien presence unrestricted access to our systems." Lyra cut him off. "I should have you both thrown in the brig immediately." The chief engineer interceded. "Captain, with all due respect, this alien just saved our ship. Without her, we'd be space dust right now." Lyra's gaze snapped to Sarah, who fought the urge to shrink back. "Is this true?" Sarah squared her shoulders. "I assisted your crew in stabilizing the antimatter containment field, yes, but it was a team effort." For a long moment, Lyra was silent, her alien features unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "It seems I owe you a debt, human. But this doesn't change the fact that your presence here violates galactic law." "About that," Sarah said, seizing the moment. "I understand I'm not supposed to know about your civilization yet, but now that I do, isn't there a way we can turn this into a positive? A chance for cooperation and mutual understanding?" Lyra's mandibles clicked. "You're remarkably calm for someone in your position." Sarah couldn't help but laugh. "Believe me, I'm terrified, but I'm also a scientist. The opportunity to learn about your civilization, your technology, it's worth facing that fear." Something in Lyra's posture changed, a subtle shift that Sarah couldn't quite interpret. "You're full of surprises, Sarah Chen, but we have more immediate concerns. The Kurulian raiders." As if on cue, the ship rocked with another impact. Lyra stumbled, catching herself on a nearby console. "Status report," she barked. "Shields at 12%, an officer responded. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 5. Weapon systems offline." Sarah's mind raced. "Captain, you said something earlier about an emergency warp jump." Lyra's eye stalks swiveled towards her. "Yes, but with the damage we've sustained. What if we use the jump to our advantage?" Sarah interrupted. "You said the Kurulians use outdated technology, right? What if we could trick them into following us into warp, then drop out suddenly? The stress on their systems might be enough to disable them." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Lyra's mandibles worked silently for a moment. "It's risky," she finally said, "but given our options, make it happen." What followed was a frenzy of activity. Sarah found herself working alongside the Arcturian crew, offering suggestions and insights that bridged the gap between their advanced technology and her theoretical knowledge. Her human perspective, free from the assumptions and habits of Arcturian training, proved invaluable in devising unorthodox solutions. As they made final preparations for the desperate gambit, Sarah felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Dr. Zahn, his compound eyes gleaming with an emotion she couldn't quite place. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "I want you to know that you've changed my perspective on your species. The adaptability you've shown, the quick thinking under pressure, it's remarkable." Sarah smiled, touched by the alien scientist's words. "Thank you, Zahn, for giving me a chance. All hands, brace for emergency warp jump." Lyra's voice boomed over the intercom. Sarah gripped a nearby console, her heart pounding. The view screen showed the sleek, predatory forms of the Kurulian ships closing in. "Now," Lyra commanded. The stars on the view screen stretched into lines, then a swirling vortex of color. Sarah's stomach lurched as reality itself seemed to twist around them. Seconds ticked by, feeling like an eternity. Then, with a violent shudder, the stellar seeker dropped out of warp. "Status of Kurulian vessels," Lyra demanded. The sensor officer's appendages danced over his console. 2 ships destroyed on warp exit. The third is heavily damaged, weapons and propulsion offline. A cheer went up from the crew. Sarah sagged against the console, relief washing over her. Captain Lyra turned to face her, the alien's posture conveying a complex mix of emotions. It seems we owe you our lives twice over, Sarah Chen. I may have misjudged you and your species. Sarah straightened, meeting the captain's gaze. Thank you, Captain. I hope this can be the beginning of a new understanding between our peoples. Lyra was silent for a long moment. Perhaps, she finally said, but the decision is not mine alone to make. We must return to Arcturia and face the consequences of our actions. All of us, she added, with a pointed look at Dr. Zahn. As the stellar seeker limped towards the heart of Arcturian space, Sarah found herself filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had dreamed of first contact her entire life, but nothing could have prepared her for this reality. She gazed out at the star-filled expanse, marveling at the vastness of the galaxy and the infinite possibilities it held. Whatever came next, Sarah knew that humanity's place in the cosmic order would never be the same. Little did she know that her actions aboard the Stellar Seeker were just the beginning. The real challenges and opportunities lay ahead in the complex political landscape of a galactic civilization that had never anticipated the arrival of a species quite like humanity. Galactic Revelations, 2,000 words. The journey to Arcturia took several days, during which Sarah found herself in a surreal state of limbo. She was no longer treated as a prisoner, but her status remained undefined. The crew, initially wary, gradually warmed to her presence. Many sought her out, curious about Earth and its inhabitants. Dr. Zahn became her unofficial guide, explaining the basics of galactic society and technology. Sarah's mind reeled at the scale of it all, thousands of spacefaring civilizations, bound together by a complex web of laws and alliances. The Galactic Confederation, Zahn explained, is the overarching governing body. It's composed of representatives from all member species, but the most influential are the founding races. Let me guess, Sarah said. The Arcturians are one of them. Zahn's mandibles clicked in what Sarah now recognized as amusement. Indeed, along with the Volux, the Thakari, and the Zenth, they established the Confederation millennia ago, setting the rules by which all other species would be judged and admitted. Sarah frowned. Judged. That sounds problematic. It's a contentious issue, Zahn admitted. The criteria for admittance are strict. FTL capability is just the beginning. A species must demonstrate political unity, ecological responsibility, and adherence to Confederation ethical standards. And who decides those standards? Zahn's compound eyes flickered. An astute question, one that has caused no small amount of debate over the centuries. As they talked, Sarah began to see the cracks in the seemingly perfect facade of galactic civilization. The founding races, while not overtly tyrannical, held a disproportionate amount of power. Younger species often found themselves at a disadvantage, their unique perspectives dismissed or undervalued. On the final day of their journey, Captain Lyra summoned Sarah to the bridge. The massive form of Arcturia loomed on the view screen, a gas giant swirling with storms of emerald and gold, surrounded by a network of orbital platforms that dwarfed anything humanity had built in space. Impressive, isn't it? Lyra said, a note of pride in her voice. Sarah nodded, awestruck. It's beautiful, but where do you actually live? Lyra gestured to the orbital structures, the Arcturian habitats, self-contained ecosystems, each home to millions. We hadn't set foot on a planetary surface in generations. As the Stellar Seeker docked with one of the habitats, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She was about to become the first human to set foot in the heart of an alien civilization, assuming they let her leave the ship at all. To her surprise, she was escorted not to a holding cell, but to a luxurious suite. The arbiters will want to interview you, Lyra explained. Until then, you'll be treated as an honored guest. It's the least we can do, given your service to this ship. The next few days were a whirlwind of debriefings and interviews. Sarah found herself recounting her experiences to a parade of Arcturian officials, each more imposing than the last. She answered their questions as best she could, all while trying to glean as much information as possible about this new society she'd been thrust into. It was during one of these sessions that she met Arbiter Vex, a venerable Arcturian whose iridescent scales had faded to a pale silver with age. Unlike the others, Vex seemed genuinely interested in Sarah's perspective. "Tell me, Sarah Chen," Vex said, his voice a low rumble. "What do you think of our civilization now that you've had a chance to observe it?" Sarah chose her words carefully. "It's incredibly advanced, far beyond anything we've achieved on Earth. But, Vex prompted, "But I can't help feeling that there's a certain rigidity to it, a resistance to change." Vex's eye stalks quivered, an expression Sarah couldn't interpret. "An interesting observation. Can you elaborate?" Sarah took a deep breath. "From what I've learned, the Galactic Confederation has remained largely unchanged for millennia. The same races hold the most power, the same rules apply to all. But the universe is vast and diverse. Shouldn't your civilization evolve to reflect that?" To her surprise, Vex let out a low, rumbling laugh. "You are indeed full of surprises, Sarah Chen. Many would hesitate to offer such critique to an arbiter. I apologize if I've given offense." Vex waved a clawed hand dismissively. "On the contrary, your frankness is refreshing, and your observations, not entirely without merit." The arbiter's tone grew serious. "What you must understand, Sarah, is that stability is paramount in a galactic civilization. The rules and structures that govern us have prevented countless wars, preserved countless species. Change, while sometimes necessary, must be approached with extreme caution." Sarah nodded, understanding the logic but not entirely convinced. "I see, but doesn't that stability come at a cost? The suppression of new ideas, new ways of thinking." Vex's eye stalks swiveled, focusing intently on her. "Perhaps. It is a balance we constantly strive to maintain. But tell me, what would you propose?" Sarah hesitated, aware of the weight of the moment. Here she was, a lone human, presuming to advise an ancient alien civilization. But Vex seemed genuinely interested in her perspective, so she pressed on. "On Earth, we have a concept called biodiversity," she began. "The idea that an ecosystem is strongest when it contains a wide variety of species, each contributing in its own unique way. Couldn't the same principle apply to a galactic civilization? A system that not only tolerates but actively encourages diverse perspectives and approaches." Vex was silent for a long moment, his alien features unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "A provocative idea, Sarah Chen, and one that some among us have proposed in various forms over the centuries. But implementing such a system on a galactic scale, the challenges would be immense." "Nothing worthwhile is ever easy," Sarah said with a small smile. Vex made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "Indeed, you've given me much to consider, Sarah Chen. I suspect our paths will cross again before this situation is resolved." As Vex left, Sarah felt a mixture of hope and anxiety. She'd spoken her mind to one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, but what consequences would her words have? "I accept," she said, her voice ringing clear through the chamber. As the council prepared for her presentation, Sarah's mind whirled with possibilities. She had minutes to encapsulate the entirety of human potential, to convince these ancient beings that humanity deserved a place among the stars. It was a daunting task, but as she looked around the chamber, Sarah felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about forging a new path for Earth, for the galaxy itself. Whatever happened next would reshape the course of galactic history, and Sarah Chen, the accidental ambassador of humanity, was ready to make her case. The answer came sooner than she expected. The next day, she was summoned to a meeting with the full Arbiter's Council. As she entered the vast, domed chamber, Sarah felt the weight of alien gazes upon her. Arcturians, yes, but also representatives of the other founding races, the crystalline Volux, the ethereal Thkari, and the enigmatic Zenth. At the center of it all stood Captain Lyra and Dr. Zahn, looking decidedly uncomfortable. Arbiter Vex's voice rang out, silencing the murmurs that had arisen at Sarah's entrance. Esteemed colleagues, we face an unprecedented situation. The human before you, Sarah Chen, represents a species on the brink of cosmic awareness. Through a series of unusual circumstances, she has gained knowledge of our civilization far beyond what their current development should allow. A Volux representative, its crystalline form shimmering with internal light, spoke next. The protocol is clear. The human's memory must be erased, and all record of this incident expunged. With respect, Vex countered, I believe we have an opportunity here. Sarah Chen has demonstrated remarkable adaptability and insight. Her actions aboard the Stellar Seeker saved countless lives. Perhaps it is time we reconsider our approach to emerging civilizations. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices. Sarah stood silently, acutely aware that her fate, and potentially that of her entire species, hung in the balance. Finally, a Fkari representative raised a tendril, calling for silence. This is not a decision to be made lightly. We propose a test. Let the human present her case before this council. If she can demonstrate that her species is ready for the knowledge she has gained, we will consider alternatives to memory erasure. Sarah's heart raced. This was it, a chance to speak for humanity before the assembled power of the galaxy. Vex turned to her, his eye stalks conveying what she hoped was encouragement. Sarah Chen of Earth, you have heard the Council's proposal. Do you accept this challenge? Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself. She thought of Earth, of the long history of human struggle and triumph, of the curiosity that had driven her species to explore, to question, to reach for the stars. Unexpected allies, 2,000 words. As Sarah stood before the Arbiter's Council, she felt the weight of countless alien gazes upon her. The chamber was silent, filled with an anticipation that transcended species barriers. She took a deep breath, centering herself before beginning her impromptu defense of humanity. Esteemed members of the Council, Sarah began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I stand before you not just as an individual, but as a representative of my entire species. Humanity may be young in cosmic terms, but our potential is boundless. She paused, gathering her thoughts. You've judged us as primitive because we haven't achieved faster-than-light travel. But I ask you to look beyond that single benchmark. In the span of a mere century, we've gone from our first powered flight to landing on our moon. We've unraveled the mysteries of the atom, peered into the heart of distant galaxies, and begun to understand the fundamental forces that shape our universe. A murmur rippled through the assembled aliens. Sarah pressed on, gaining confidence. But it's not just our scientific achievements that define us. It's our adaptability, our creativity, our unwavering spirit in the face of adversity. We are a species of innovators and dreamers. We've created art that can move one to tears, music that can inspire revolutions, and stories that can change the way we see the universe. She gestured to Dr. Zahn and Captain Lyra. My experiences aboard the Stellar Seeker prove that humans can not only comprehend your advanced technology, but contribute to it in meaningful ways. We bring a fresh perspective, unbound by centuries of established doctrine. The Volux representative interrupted, its crystalline form pulsing with inner light. Pretty words, human. But how can we trust a species that still wars among itself? That pollutes its own planet. Sarah nodded, acknowledging the point. We are far from perfect. Our history is marred by conflict and short-sightedness, but it's also filled with triumph over these very flaws. We learn from our mistakes. We strive to be better. She turned, addressing the entire council. Consider this. By making contact now, you have the opportunity to guide our development, to help us avoid the pitfalls that other young species might face. We stand at a crossroads, and your wisdom could be the key to unlocking humanity's full potential as a force for good in the galaxy. As Sarah spoke, she noticed a subtle shift in the chamber's atmosphere. Some of the aliens leaned forward, their body language suggesting interest rather than dismissal. Others, however, remained impassive or even hostile. The Fikari representative, its ethereal form shimmering, spoke next. "You speak of potential, Sarah Chen, but potential can be dangerous if mishandled. How can you assure us that humanity won't use the knowledge you've gained to destructive ends?" Sarah pondered for a moment, then smiled. "I can't. Not with absolute certainty, but consider this. I've been given access to technology beyond my wildest dreams, yet my first instinct was to use it to save lives, not for personal gain or conquest. I believe that reflects a fundamental aspect of human nature, our capacity for empathy and cooperation." She gestured around the chamber. "Look at this council. Different species from different worlds, working together for the greater good. Humans understand that concept. We yearn for it. First contact with your civilization wouldn't be seen as a threat, but as the fulfillment of a centuries-old dream." As Sarah finished her impassioned speech, the chamber fell into a contemplative silence. She stood tall, heart pounding, awaiting their judgment. The great debate, 2,000 words. The return journey to Earth was a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. Sarah spent countless hours with Dr. Zahn and a team of Arcturian diplomats, strategizing how best to introduce humanity to the reality of galactic civilization. They pored over Earth's history, culture, and geopolitics, trying to anticipate every possible reaction. "The key," Zahn explained, "is to present this in a way that unifies your species rather than divides it. First contact has the potential to overcome old rivalries, but it could also exacerbate them if handled poorly." Sarah nodded, the weight of her responsibility settling heavily on her shoulders. "We need to emphasize the opportunities this presents: scientific advancement, solutions to global problems, a new era of cooperation." As their ship entered the solar system, Sarah felt a mix of emotions she couldn't quite name. Joy at seeing her home planet again, anxiety about the task ahead, and a strange sense of detachment. She had seen wonders beyond imagination, and now the familiar blue marble of Earth seemed both precious and somehow smaller than she remembered. The plan was to make initial contact with a select group of world leaders before going public. A secluded location had been chosen for the landing, a remote airfield in neutral Switzerland. As the ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, Sarah's heart raced. This was it, the moment that would change human history forever. The landing was smooth, the advanced Arcturian technology compensating easily for Earth's conditions. As the ship's ramp lowered, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped out onto her home planet. A small group of humans waited nearby, political leaders, scientists, and military personnel from various nations. Their expressions ranged from awe to suspicion to barely contained excitement. Sarah approached them, acutely aware of the alien delegation behind her. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves, "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, and I bring greetings from the Galactic Confederation." What followed was a marathon of explanations, demonstrations, and negotiations. Sarah found herself acting as a bridge between two worlds, translating not just words, but entire concepts and cultural frameworks. The human leaders were initially skeptical, then curious, and finally, as the reality of the situation sank in, a mix of excited and apprehensive. "This is an unprecedented opportunity," the Secretary-General of the United Nations said during one meeting. "But it also presents immense challenges. How do we ensure equitable access to this new technology and knowledge? How do we prevent it from destabilizing global power structures?" Sarah nodded, having anticipated these concerns. "The Confederation is offering us probationary membership status. This comes with safeguards and a gradual integration process. We won't be given unrestricted access to advanced technology overnight. Instead, we'll be guided towards developing it ourselves with their assistance." "And what do they want in return?" a skeptical military general asked. "Cooperation," Sarah replied. "Cultural exchange. The opportunity to study our unique development and perspectives. Humanity has a lot to offer the galactic community, even if we don't realize it yet. As the days passed, word of the alien arrival began to leak out. Grainy photos and videos appeared on social media, sparking a frenzy of speculation. Sarah and the diplomatic team worked around the clock to prepare for the public announcement. Finally, the day arrived. Sarah stood before a sea of cameras and microphones, the eyes of the world upon her. With the alien delegation beside her and Earth's leaders behind her, she took a deep breath and began. "People of Earth," she said, her voice broadcast to billions around the globe, "today marks the dawn of a new era for humanity. We are not alone in the universe, and we have been invited to join a community of civilizations that spans our galaxy." She went on to explain the basics of the situation, the Galactic Confederation, Earth's probationary status, and the opportunities and challenges that lay ahead. As she spoke, she could almost feel the shockwaves rippling across the planet. Everything was about to change. The immediate aftermath was chaos. Global financial markets fluctuated wildly. Religious leaders scrambled to reconcile their doctrines with this new reality. Conspiracy theorists had a field day, alternately claiming vindication and prying foul. But amid the turmoil, Sarah saw something beautiful emerging. People around the world were coming together, united by this shared experience. Old rivalries seemed petty in the face of such a monumental shift in human understanding. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. As the initial shock wore off, questions and concerns began to mount. Sarah found herself at the center of a global debate about humanity's place in the cosmos and the path forward. Environmental groups praised the potential for advanced clean energy technology, while others feared the impact of alien ideas on human culture. Scientists were ecstatic about the possibilities for new research, while some politicians worried about maintaining national sovereignty in the face of a galactic government. It all came to a head at a special session of the United Nations General Assembly. Representatives from every nation gathered to debate Earth's response to the Confederation's offer. Sarah, along with Dr. Zahn and several other alien representatives, was there to answer questions and provide clarity. The debate was heated from the start. Some nations pushed for full, immediate integration, eager to reap the benefits of advanced technology. Others advocated for caution, even isolation, fearing the loss of human identity and independence. "We cannot rush into this blindly," the representative from Nigeria argued. "Our history is full of cautionary tales about the dangers of rapid technological and cultural exchange. We must proceed carefully, maintaining our autonomy." "But we can't afford to hesitate," the Japanese delegate countered. "The potential benefits in medicine alone could save millions of lives, not to mention the solutions to climate change, energy crisis, and resource scarcity." Round and round the arguments went. Sarah listened intently, occasionally providing clarification or context when asked. She marveled at the passion and diversity of perspectives, even as she worried about the divisions emerging. As the debate entered its second day, Sarah requested the opportunity to address the assembly. Standing at the podium, facing the representatives of all humanity, she felt the weight of the moment. "Distinguished representatives," she began, "I've listened to your concerns and your hopes. They are all valid. This decision is perhaps the most important one humanity has ever faced. But I want to remind you of something crucial. We are not alone in this." Back on Earth, the process of integration continued, not without its challenges. The sudden influx of advanced technology had disrupted entire industries. Governments struggled to adapt laws and regulations to account for things like personal anti-gravity devices and matter replicators. Sarah found herself constantly shuttling between Earth and various Confederation worlds, mediating disputes, facilitating exchanges, and always working to ensure that humanity's voice was heard in galactic affairs. It was during one such diplomatic mission that Sarah received an urgent message from Dr. Zahn. "Return to Earth immediately," it read. "A situation has arisen that requires your unique expertise." Concerned, Sarah cut her mission short and raced back to her home planet. She found Zahn waiting for her at the newly constructed Galactic Embassy in Geneva. "What's going on, Zahn?" she asked, noting the anxiety in her old friend's posture. Zahn's mandibles clicked nervously. "We've detected an anomaly, Sarah. A spatial distortion at the edge of your solar system. Initial readings suggest it could be a wormhole." Sarah's eyes widened. "A naturally occurring wormhole. But that's exceedingly rare, yes," Zahn finished for her, "and potentially very dangerous. If it's unstable, it could pose a significant threat to Earth and nearby systems." Sarah's mind raced with the implications. A wormhole could be an incredible scientific opportunity, a potential disaster, or both. What do we need to do? "The Confederation is assembling a research team," Zahn explained. "But given Earth's unique position and your personal experience bridging our cultures, they want you to lead it." Sarah felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was an opportunity to prove that humanity could contribute meaningfully to galactic-scale challenges, but the stakes were incredibly high. Over the next few weeks, Sarah worked tirelessly to assemble a diverse team of human and alien scientists. They set up a research station in the outer reaches of the solar system, as close to the anomaly as was safe. As data began pouring in, the true nature of the wormhole became clear. It wasn't just a spatial phenomenon, it was temporal as well. The other side of the wormhole seemed to connect to Earth's distant past. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community, both on Earth and throughout the Confederation. The potential for time travel, even if limited and dangerous, raised ethical and practical questions that no one was fully prepared to answer. Sarah found herself once again at the center of a galactic debate. Some argued for immediately sealing the wormhole to prevent any potential temporal catastrophes. Others saw it as an unparalleled opportunity for historical research and scientific advancement. As the leader of the research team, Sarah was called to testify before a special session of the Galactic Council. The chamber was packed, with representatives from every Confederation species in attendance. "Dr. Chen," Arbiter Vex began, "your team's discovery has presented us with a situation unprecedented in Confederation history. What is your recommendation for how we should proceed?" Sarah took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of her words. "Arbiter, esteemed representatives, we stand at a crossroads not just for Earth, but for all sentient life in our galaxy. The wormhole represents both incredible opportunity and grave danger." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I cannot in good conscience recommend that we simply ignore or destroy this phenomenon. The potential for scientific advancement is too great. However, I am equally convinced that unrestricted access to the past could have catastrophic consequences." She paced the stage, her eyes sweeping over the eager faces before her. "As we learn about the myriad cultures and technologies of our galactic neighbors, we must also share the best of ourselves. Earth has been given an unprecedented opportunity to contribute to the tapestry of galactic civilization. Our art, our music, our literature. These are as valuable as any technological advancement we might make." The lecture was being broadcast globally, and Sarah knew that millions beyond this auditorium were listening. It was a chance to inspire and guide humanity's first steps into their new role. "But we must also be prepared for challenges," she continued. "Our planet is no longer isolated. We are part of a vast, complex political and economic system. Our decisions now have consequences that ripple across light years." As Sarah concluded her lecture, she felt a sense of pride in how far humanity had come in such a short time. The questions from the audience were insightful, demonstrating a growing sophistication in galactic matters. But not everyone was as enthusiastic about Earth's new status. As Sarah left the auditorium, she was confronted by a group of protesters. They carried signs with slogans like "Earth for Humans" and "Preserve Our Culture." A young man stepped forward, his face etched with concern. "Dr. Chen, how can you be sure we're not just pawns in some alien game? How do we know they won't simply exploit our resources and discard us?" Sarah had faced such questions many times, but she never dismissed them. "I understand your concerns," she said gently. "Change on this scale is frightening, but I've spent years working closely with members of the Confederation. They are as diverse in their thoughts and motivations as we are. Many genuinely want to see Earth thrive." She smiled, hoping to convey her sincerity. "Moreover, our probationary status includes safeguards against exploitation. We have a voice in Confederation matters, and the right to refuse any policy we feel is not in Earth's best interests." The protester didn't seem entirely convinced, but Sarah saw a flicker of consideration in his eyes. These conversations, she knew, were crucial. Earth's integration into galactic society couldn't be forced. It had to be a choice embraced by the majority of humanity. As months turned into years, the tangible benefits of Confederation membership began to manifest. Collaborative research led to breakthroughs in clean energy technology, solving Earth's climate crisis almost overnight. Medical advances eradicated diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. But it wasn't just Earth that was changing. Sarah's role as a bridge between human and alien cultures had unexpected consequences throughout the Confederation. During a session of the Galactic Council, where Sarah now served as Earth's official representative, a debate arose over the colonization rights of a newly discovered planet. The Volux and Thcari delegations were at an impasse, each claiming historical precedent for their position. Sarah listened intently, then raised her hand to speak. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, "if I may offer a perspective from Earth's history." She went on to recount the story of the Columbian Exchange, how the connection of the old and new worlds had led to a dramatic exchange of crops, animals, and ideas, reshaping both societies in the process. "Perhaps," Sarah suggested, "instead of viewing this as a competition for resources, we could see it as an opportunity for mutual benefit. A collaborative colony where both Volux and Thcari work together, sharing their unique strengths and knowledge." The chamber fell silent for a moment, then erupted in discussion. The idea was radical by Confederation standards, challenging centuries of established protocol. But it was precisely this kind of fresh perspective that many had hoped Earth would bring to galactic politics. After hours of debate, a compromise was reached. The planet would indeed be colonized jointly, with a governance structure that incorporated elements from both Volux and Thcari traditions, as well as new ideas inspired by Earth's history of cultural fusion. As the council adjourned, Arbiter Vex approached Sarah, his eye stalks quivering with what she now recognized as amusement. "You continue to surprise us, Sarah Chen. It seems humanity's capacity for innovative thinking is proving quite valuable indeed." Sarah smiled, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "We're just happy to contribute, Arbiter. Earth has so much to learn from the Confederation, but perhaps we have some things to teach as well." Sarah's voice grew more passionate as she continued. "I propose a compromise. We establish a joint Confederation Earth task force to study the wormhole under the strictest possible controls. No physical matter to be sent through, only observational probes. We use this as an opportunity to advance our understanding of spacetime itself, while also establishing protocols for dealing with similar phenomena in the future." The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Sarah's proposal was debated, refined, and ultimately accepted. As the session adjourned, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had faced its first true galactic-scale challenge and risen to the occasion. As Sarah left the council chamber, she was met by a group of young diplomats, a mix of humans and aliens who had been inspired by her work. One of them, a bright-eyed Thcari, approached her. "Dr. Chen," the young diplomat said, her voice filled with admiration, "your handling of this crisis has been remarkable. You've shown us all how much humanity has to offer the Confederation. I hope that one day I can make a difference the way you have." Sarah smiled, touched by the young alien's words. "Thank you," she said warmly. "But remember, it's not about any one individual. It's about all of us working together, sharing our knowledge and perspectives to create a better future for all sentient beings." As she looked out at the diverse group of young diplomats, Sarah felt a surge of hope for the future. Earth's journey into the galactic community had not been without its challenges, but it had also brought out the best in humanity, their creativity, their adaptability, their capacity for cooperation in the face of the unknown. The dawn of this new era had only just begun, and Sarah Chen knew that the greatest adventures and challenges still lay ahead. But as she stood there, surrounded by the next generation of galactic leaders, she felt confident that together they would face whatever the cosmos had in store. The story of humanity's integration into the galactic community was far from over. But thanks to the efforts of Sarah Chen and countless others like her, it was off to a promising start. As Earth took its place among the stars, the future seemed brighter than ever before. She gestured to the alien delegates. The Galactic Confederation is not seeking to conquer or assimilate us. They are offering us a chance to join them as equals, to learn and grow alongside countless other civilizations. Yes, there are risks, but there are also unprecedented opportunities. Sarah's voice grew more passionate as she continued. Think of what we could achieve with access to the combined knowledge of 1,000 worlds. Cures for diseases, solutions to hunger and poverty, the ability to protect our planet and eventually explore beyond it. But more than that, we have the chance to bring something unique to the galactic community. Our art, our music, our perspectives and ideas. She paused, looking out over the assembly. I've seen wonders beyond imagination out there among the stars. But I've also seen the wonder in the eyes of alien scientists as they learned about Earth's biodiversity or listened to a human symphony for the first time. We have so much to offer if we can find the courage to take this step together. As Sarah finished her speech, a hush fell over the assembly. Then, slowly, applause began to build. It wasn't universal. Some representatives remained skeptical or opposed, but there was a palpable shift in the room's energy. The debate continued for several more days, but with a new tone. Instead of arguing for or against joining the Confederation, the focus shifted to how best to manage the transition. Committees were formed to handle various aspects: scientific cooperation, cultural exchange, security concerns, and more. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of discussion and negotiation, a vote was called. Sarah held her breath as the results were tallied. In the end, the resolution to accept the Confederation's offer of probationary membership passed with a strong majority. As the assembly erupted in a mix of cheers and continued debate, Sarah felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Dr. Zahn, his compound eyes gleaming with what she now recognized as pride. "Well done, Sarah Chen," he said softly. "You've guided your species through its first steps into a larger universe. It's a remarkable achievement." Sarah smiled, exhausted but elated. "We've only just begun, Zahn. There's so much work ahead of us." As they left the assembly hall, Sarah's mind was already racing with the tasks to come. Establishing Earth's first off-world embassy, coordinating scientific and cultural exchanges, preparing humanity for the wonders and challenges that awaited them among the stars. But for now, as she stepped out into the sunlight, Sarah allowed herself a moment to simply breathe and appreciate the magnitude of what had been accomplished. Humanity had made its choice. The journey into the cosmic community had begun. Little did Sarah know that this was just the beginning. The real challenges and opportunities of integrating Earth into galactic society were yet to come, and her role in shaping this new era was far from over. A new era dawns, 2,000 words. The years following Earth's acceptance into the Galactic Confederation were a whirlwind of change and adaptation. Sarah Chen found herself at the center of it all, serving as Earth's primary liaison to the galactic community, while also helping her own species navigate this new reality. The initial phase of integration focused on knowledge exchange and cultural understanding. Universities around the world established departments of xenobiology, xenopsychology, and comparative galactic cultures. Sarah worked tirelessly with both human and alien educators to develop curricula that would prepare the next generation for life in a multi-species society. One crisp autumn morning, Sarah stood before a packed auditorium at Oxford University. Students and faculty from around the world had gathered for the inaugural lecture of the Department of Galactic Studies. "We stand at the dawn of a new age," Sarah began, her voice carrying easily through the hall. "An age where the boundaries of human knowledge are expanding faster than at any point in our history. But with this expansion comes great responsibility.